All righty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm working from home, and you will inevitably hear one of my 5 dachshunds bark during this, probably incessantly, but nonetheless, I apologize in advance for that. So let's go ahead and get started while they're quiet. So what's 2021 going to bring us? We're doing a lot of planning sessions right now. We're really trying to grasp all the data that's out there and that's, that we can get a hold of to just, again, look into the future and see, what trends, what can we pull out of this? But the fact is, nobody knows definitively what challenges or successes 2021 is going to bring. And so we do know 2020, for some has been, a little rocky. Others have seen a lot of success. So, there's pros and cons or, a silver bullet for everything here. But, I will say what we've learned as a committee, what we've learned as a group is really there's a lot of changes. We have to be adaptable. We got to be nimble. Most important, we got to learn how to target clients online. And so, I think the synopsis is when it comes to how we're going to address the future, it's really there's a lot of unknowns. So sadly, we know some businesses have been impacted, to the negative. There's been some closures, stuff like that. But, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So those that have survived, you've learned obviously something. So, we want to take these successes, we want to put them into marketing strategies. And so we're going to teach you guys how to do that today. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. So let's rock and roll. So what exactly is a marketing strategy? So a marketing strategy, just, from its basic level, is a comprehensive plan formulated particularly to achieve a marketing objective for the organizations. It provides a blueprint for obtaining these marketing objectives, blah, 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 all the fun stuff. Now, what I will say is this. A marketing strategy is a part of, or your marketing plan, however you want to word it, should be a part of your business plan. And so for those of you that, have established businesses, this is that living, breathing document within your business plan that ultimately helps to drive that growth within your organization. Now, I want to stress one thing. This is a living, breathing document. You're going to hear me say that a couple of times now because I feel like one of the biggest mistakes clients make is that at the beginning of the year or whenever they do it, whether it's a fiscal year, beginning of the year, however long, they set it and forget it. And that's not what this document is meant to be. That's not what this strategy is meant to be. This strategy is to help define objectives. It's to help define opportunities, measure success, and so much more. So really, I encourage you, embrace your marketing strategy. This should be something that, is discussed. Within our company, we discuss it monthly. But again, within your own organizations, I know businesses that, they deal with it quarterly, semi-annual, however long, whatever that interval looks like for you. Just make sure that it's not something that, you just put by the wayside. So why do we need to develop a marketing strategy? So statistics that for documenting your strategy gives you a 538% greater chance of being successful. So if you've attended my classes before, I love to put the why in there. I'm a big one of, why should we do this? So as business owners, we're all that type of personality that loves to get that why. So the why is 538% greater chance of success. Like that's, if we need any more, maybe I could pull some more statistics, but that is the number one thing that I want, that you need to pay attention to here is that if you do this, you have the greatest possibility of success. So marketing strategy provides an organization with an edge over the competitors. It ensures effective vendor staff and management coordination. It helps an organization make optimum utilization of its resources to provide the right message to their target audience. And it helps fix the advertising budget in advance and develops a method that determines the scope of the plan. So those are a lot of fancy terms. But bottom line is it helps guide our business. This is what's ultimately going to help lead us to growth for 2021. So how do you develop a marketing strategy? And I'm going to preface this slide by saying this isn't a go-to for everybody. This is just, our little 10-step trying to get this done within an hour type strategy that we put together that we feel are the most important component. You can certainly break this strategy down into dozens and dozens of different elements. I don't know that necessarily the more complicated, the more successful, but certainly the more direction you're going to provide yourself and your staff. But more so, these are the basics of what we're going to talk about today. And, if you follow these, again, it's a win-win for everybody. So some of the things we're going to cover: setting your marketing goals, auditing what you've done in the past, doing market research, analyzing that research, identifying target audience, determining budget, developing your actual strategy, the implementation of that actual strategy, evaluating it, and then rinse, wash, repeat. So let's start off first, setting the marketing goals. So pretty obvious, you got to have goals in order to move forward. So every business is different. So take away from this what you will, but the overall goal is to make sure that we're defining actual goals for 2021. I think the most common misconception that people have is that a marketing goal has to be something revenue-based, and that's not true. So we typically associate our marketing goals with growing our, our income or growing our client base, however you want to look at that. But really, there should be multiple goals that you're setting for your business, and those might be, something that, you want to do. Let's just say you want to improve your review score online. You want to increase the number of subscriptions you have. So we'll talk about these in a little bit, but I think the first thing that we look to do is, again, establish what do we want to grow this year? What type of impact do we want to make on our business? The second thing is to break them down into categories. And so, again, a marketing goal isn't a 12-month goal. We don't sit back and we don't say, okay, for the next 12 months, I want to grow my business by 25%. Now, that may be a goal, but we need to break that down into more manageable sections, if you will. So for our business, we have three categories that we use. I have an immediate goal, I have a short-term, and a long-term. So an immediate is one that we consider a 1 to 3 month goal. So let's just say, I call Tom and I say, hey, Tom, I need to do I want to do a Facebook or a LinkedIn ad campaign. And, again, 1 month really isn't enough to determine a result. So I'm going to do it for 60 to 90 days. And so that would be an immediate goal. And so I want Tom to help me develop that. A short term, a 3 to 6 month goal might be, working with Brandon, and we break out, hey, Brandon, I need to order some pens, and I want to get 500 pens out into the market, into my potential clients' hands in order to increase my branding. A long-term goal might be something, hey, Walter, I want to run a geofencing campaign for the next 12 months around my location to increase brand awareness. So there's any number of ways or any number of goals rather, that we can fit into these categories. But the most important thing is, again, we define the goal and then we define the time frame in which we want to obtain that. So we do our quarterly review. So we talked a little bit about that measurement thing, and again, we'll go into greater detail on that. But for us, we break our goals down into quarterly and annuals. So again, doesn't mean I don't have a 1 month goal out there. Just, again, we're going to strategize from a 2021 perspective. We're going to look at quarterly goals. For the, let's just say, first 3 months of the year, for the first quarter, I want to invest into social media because I want to grow my brand presence, so on and so forth. So there's any number of ways we can do that. This time span allows us to plan activities around community events that are in line with our goals. It allows us for various marketing initiatives to ramp up. You're going to hear me talk about that, and I think Tom will touch on this later on as well, is you need to have a ramp-up period for things. A lot of the times, businesses will go into a marketing initiative or some type of strategy, and they want immediate results. A great example is Google Ads or Facebook ads. And granted, yes, you will generate ads or you will generate leads as just by virtue of doing those various functions. But again, there's a ramp-up period for everything. And so with algorithms and AI and all these different tools that we use at our disposal, I always like to set the right expectation that for most campaigns, you're looking at least a couple of weeks, more than likely up to a 30-day ramp-up period for various things to really kind of get some traction and start working the way that we envision them working. And then last but not least, any curveballs that get thrown our way. I mean, I don't know, or is Arizona going to go into a shutdown, at the first of the year or in the next week? Who knows? I mean, we don't know what the future is going to bring. We may see a variety of changes, let's just say. We won't go into specifics. I had a joke there, but I'm going to refrain. So because of the rapid change in the world today, we don't recommend planning more than a year in advance. In hindsight, last year, you might have heard me say 12 and 24-month plans. Those are more or less off the table right now, just because, again, a lot of us are operating, on the tips of our toes. So.
Chris, that's a great point. In fact, I have some clients that are doing almost 2 business plans for 2021. It's almost like, what happens if, and they're an event company, basically. So they host a lot of events. Obviously, the transition to more virtual, but they're almost like, okay, what happens if we're virtual for the entire year? What happens if we could do a hybrid with, both virtual and in person? So I think there's more of almost like alternative marketing plans, like almost like 2 different marketing plans for a lot of people. If this happens, I will do this. If that happens, I will do that. A lot of people had to make changes on the fly last year. And I think, as you said, what didn't kill us made us stronger. I think a lot of people are kind of making alternative marketing plans. What happens if we go this way? And then what is kind of a plan B? So I think a lot of companies are almost doing 2 different ones to kind of see, kind of mitigate a plan for anything out of the ordinary that may happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And honestly, I think the ones that plan are the ones that ultimately will, you can't say anybody will definitively be successful, but at the end of the day, I feel like the ones that plan will be much more successful than the ones that don't. And some of the unfortunate ones, and I've heard this from, new potential clients to existing clients, is that, there's a lot to consider. And, making those alternative goals, yeah, they take time. This is the time that we do this. But for some businesses, they slow down. Other businesses are ramping up right now. But bottom line is, January 1's coming, and it's a new energy. It's a new opportunity for a business. I mean, it's basically a reset on everything. So, take the advice and really honestly try to plan as much as you can, even for the unknowns. But I think ultimately that's going to help you gear up for success.
Yeah. And if I could also add to that, as far as setting, what is going to be your KPI, what is going to be your indicator to say that this goal is heading in the right direction, or if we need to change direction. Because I think a lot of time we set goals for things and we say that the goal is not accomplished unless it's completed in totality. But there might have been indicators far before that goal deadline to say that we need to shift direction and try something different. And whether that be lead generation for you, whether that be an increase in revenue, you kind of want to make sure that you have a key indicator set for each of those goals so that you could analyze that and pivot as needed versus waiting to the deadline of that goal to say that didn't work.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're going to talk about evaluation here towards the end, just to make sure that we do have those units of measure in place in advance so that ultimately you're successful. So, all right. Oh, did I go too far? All right. So some of the examples that I wanted to give here for marketing goals, and these again are just real rough, but increase the number of clients, increase your subscriber rate on email marketing, increase gross revenue, improve your business image. So, before and after on reviews, but there's any other number of them. You can go a PR route. You can go, I want a major media feature here in a local market. You can go, I want to improve my site rankings with SEO. I want to improve my brand visibility on social media. I want, X number of followers on Facebook. So, there's a number of things that get encompassed into this marketing goal. I just really want to stress it does not have to be revenue based, because a lot of the time some of these other things that we do, or these other things that you're capable of doing, like again, increasing your subscriber rate, that may have a direct reflection or a direct correlation to an increase in your bottom line over a 12-month period. But again, it's its own individual goal. So the other thing I want to touch on here on this slide is, again, it's important to share your goals with your staff members. I've had any number of objections to this over the years. And, I keep going back to what I was taught in college is that, when your business functions as an organism, I mean, really your staff are an extension of you, or they should be, and so when we look at this, it's important to have their buy-in. It's important to get their perspectives because, again, as an owner, and I use this analogy all the time with my staff, is that sometimes we're just too close to a project. Sometimes we're just too close to our business. I know I've gone off on tangents on my own company, and I've had my project managers, hey, say, hey, you need to maybe think about X, Y, and Z instead. So again, it's really important to get a different perspective out there, and your staff is kind of that first go-to. Staff, business partners, so on and so forth, even vendors, if you have vendors that you use to accomplish certain things. So if you want to be successful, you need to make sure that everybody is in it to win it. And so that's where you're going to get the support to achieve your goals. All right, so let's go ahead and start off, let's move into, conducting a marketing audit. I put this in here for an important reason, because a lot of the times, and again, 2020 is rough because you may say, I don't want to evaluate what happened in 2020 because that was just a crazy year. Well, I hate to break it to you, we don't know what 2021 is going to bring. So if anything, we need to look at what we did last year to say, okay, well, this worked, this didn't, and really doing a good evaluation of that. So I always encourage, do a 12-month review. Now, again, in prior years, I might have said a 12, 18, 24 month, because again, a lot of the times these campaigns, they have residual effects that, can last months and months. Again, using SEO as an example, SEO is something you may say, hey, I can't afford it anymore. I need to, pause a campaign. Well, the residual effects of that, you may continue to increase your rankings for months after you've stopped that campaign. Paid ads tend to be a little more direct and immediate, but again, a lot of the times with those, you're building an audience there. You're, again, with social ads, somebody may not make a purchase right then and there. They may make one month down the road. So when it comes to evaluating your prior plans, it's really important. Go back the last 12 months and take a real good hard look. We want to make sure to get as much data as possible. Believe it or not, there's so much out there. I mean, obviously it's overwhelming. Us in the industry, we deal with it day in and day out, but it's important to have that unit of measure for each source. Now, the challenge is this. The unit of measure for Facebook is different than Google, which is different than, what you perceive your success of a brochure or a seminar or, a yellow page ad or whatever the case may be. So everything has its own unit of measure. For us, we try our hardest to create a general, let's just say, data point, like let's just use a revenue base. Revenue is the easiest one to go to. So, how much revenue did that Facebook campaign generate? Now, that's not always just because, it may not be what we wanted it to be. That doesn't mean that that campaign was a failure. There's so many more benefits. So it's important when you're looking or when you're doing this audit of your campaigns. Again, I may buy 5,000, widgets from, Brandon, and I may get those out into the market. Couldn't tell you what the unit of measure is on that. Couldn't tell you. But again, I got 5,000 pieces in front of a client. Any number of opportunities with social. I mean, so Google Ads, same thing. So just make sure that you break these campaigns down and look at maybe some of the other benefits that you may have received. Write those down because we don't want to dismiss that. Try to avoid perception where at all possible. Perception, I always say, is at the root of all evils in marketing. Perception is one of those things. Well, I don't think my website's working. Well, there's actually data to determine that. So that the perception's irrelevant. Anything that leads with I think is I always challenge. So again, try to avoid perception, focus on facts, focus on data that resulted in whatever it is you want to measure. So whether it's increased traffic, sales, revenue, so on and so forth. So the next question is, what does successful look like? Sadly, most businesses don't establish those goals ahead of time. So looking back hindsight, some may say it's always 2020, but I actually find it to be more difficult. When we didn't have a unit of measure in place, it makes it super, super difficult to figure out, okay, well, was that or wasn't that successful? Because now we can sit back and say, well, it wasn't successful because I didn't grow my revenue by 5%, or maybe we didn't hit our annual goal last year. But that doesn't mean that all of your campaigns were not successful. So again, I'm preaching this now because I really hope that you guys adapt it to your businesses moving forward, is that you establish these goals and you document. I mean, it sounds silly. It sounds like, well, why do I need that? But really to have that in place is huge. A successful campaign might not be as simple as brand exposure in the community. Again, it might be increased followers on social, new relationship with a nonprofit. Who knows? I mean, like I said, there's hundreds and hundreds of things that you can measure. Pro tip, I always say if you're purchasing advertising from an agency or a salesperson, ask them. You need to know what to expect from these campaigns, because ultimately what we feel we should get out of something, that perception again, may not be reality. I've had clients come to me and say, hey, I have $10,000 that I want to put into a Google Ads campaign, and I want X amount of leads from that. Well, how do we even know that that's the right number or that's realistic? There's so many things to question there. What if that's not enough? What if we could do better than that? So work with your partners, your vendors, whoever that may be, and ask them, hey, what is my expected result? Document that, because ultimately they have a vested interest in your success. I mean, if companies like us, if I don't hit my goals for clients, well, then they're going to fire me. So, again, we all need to play nice in the sandbox. So don't be afraid to question it. What does a typical ROI look like? Again, we're not putting anybody on the spot, but we kind of are at the same time, because again, a quality agency or a quality salesperson or product will know what to expect on a campaign. So anybody else want to chime in on that? Nope, moving on. Got it. Next up, market research. This is my favorite part. I'm a data nerd, so I love this stuff. The purpose of market research is to draw a realistic picture of your business and the community you do business in. There are so many data points out there that you can get. I mean, I've used everything from post office data to SBA has some data. Like I said, there's any number of things. I think it's Census. Census has some good stuff. I'm just trying to think of some of them off the top of my head. There's keyword reporting platforms. There's, like I said, hundreds that we can go through. But it's so important to understand your target audience and where you're doing business. So research can make fairly accurate predictions about future growth, identify competitive factors, explore non-traditional opportunities. Again, educational programs like this, this is our give back to the community. It helps build our brand awareness. It helps educate businesses, on opportunities that exist. Community events, again, hopefully we get back to those pretty quick, because I'm missing seeing your pretty faces. But other than that, again, community events are a huge brand awareness opportunity. But more so than that, just getting out and talking to people. I mean, it identifies a ton of opportunity that exists. I know for us, I've used chambers of commerce. So, a little plug for the Glendale Chamber is, don't be afraid to call up and ask, hey, what's the state of the city? What new initiatives, what new things are coming about? The Glendale Chamber has a great relationship with the mayor's office. And so, this is where we just need to utilize our resources to make sure that we have all the facts in place as we start to make our marketing decisions. So your research may bring to light some problem areas in your business. Maybe a new market that's opening up. Again, I know here in Surprise, as an example, there's like tens of thousands of new homes being built off of 163rd and Grand Avenue. I mean, that is it's a huge market that's going to go into place. Commercial developments coming in, all sorts of stuff. So, that might be something that I want to penetrate as a business and say, hey, for all those new homeowners that are getting in, all those new, let's just say small business owners that might be living in those areas, maybe that would be a target market that I want to start saturating. So again, you've got to have the knowledge, you've got to have the data behind you. Conducting market research, this is often the most time-consuming step. Now, I actually put that in my data analysis, but this is also a really, really lengthy one, because again, you don't want to, pardon my language, but half-ass this. You really want to make sure that you take your time and do your due diligence. Identify the opportunities, reach out to people, talk to people. And, this isn't just a pull a report on the internet type thing. So there's a lot to do with market research. You might be able to find out what your business does best, what you need to work on. So it goes far beyond just community statistics. This is also a good hard look at your own business. And, I always say, and pro tip is going to be on the surveys, I love sending out surveys. I don't like always what they say, but I love sending out surveys. What you get back sometimes can be hard to stomach. I know we've done some soul searching here in our own business, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I mean, we're not perfect, and so we always need to grow as businesses. That's a phenomenal way to engage your existing client base, create some engagement with your client base, and remind them that you still exist and that you care. Fortunately, there's a ton of free resources in this area, so you can use social media to pull followers. You can use an email service provider like MailChimp. I know they have surveys. Even create a simple Google form. I mean, that's what we did. So there's a ton of opportunity out there, but again, just make sure you reach out. Pick up the phone, talk to existing clients. You know, you can get a lot of great feedback from, you know, the people that already do business with you. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
good, Chris. And even in, we just did a campaign for Lowe's. And one thing we actually do for it is compare them with their competition, but also find out where their customer is by using geotechnology, which we'll go over later. But nowadays, it's not like it used to be. You can actually use technology to find out what the market is like, how many competitors you have, where your customer is. Are they in the area that you actually have your office, or if they're really dense in another part of town, that you may want to influence you to actually open up an office or a business in that particular zone. So it's a lot of things available to you now that weren't before, and which makes this easier and less daunting. That's basically what I'm saying.
Yep, absolutely. And just to add on to the market research process, I think it's also important for us to tap into kind of the psychographics of our audience who we want to target. So, you know, if we're a restaurant, you know, people aren't always thinking about dining, but when they're not thinking about dining, what else are they thinking about? You know, what type of shopping do they like to engage in? What type of events do they like to go to? And that opens up, you know, different target markets where you could insert, if it's a Facebook group, you know, you can hop into that group and, you know, still engage people as far as what your business does, but just expanding the whole thought process of what else does my ideal client do when they're not thinking of my style of business. And I think that just opens up the opportunity to reach new clientele as well.
Hey, Chris, I have 3 questions for you, or for any of the speakers can answer. If you want to just real quick answer them.
Sure.
So the first question is, I get confused if I have X amount of followers. Why don't at least that number of people see my posts on social?
Happy to take that, Chris, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for.
Okay. Yeah. First and foremost, Facebook is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So, you know, you can have a good following. And I've had some clients that have had for 8 years that we used to get 20, 25,000 followers. And now if we put out something, maybe 1,000 people will see it. Unfortunately, Facebook really wants you to pay for that kind of audience. Now, there are some things you could do to improve your reach. For organic reach, what Facebook really wants to see is authentic and unique content. And the most authentic thing you can do is a video, because a video is you talking and nobody can steal that, and you can't steal that from anybody else. So if you do that, that's going to give you the best reach. But even that being said, if you have a large audience, you're going to be lucky to get much more than 10 to 20% of reach. So that's where a lot of times, if you're looking to really connect, a couple of things you could do. You could create a group. If it makes sense. If you do a group and you admit people into your group, if let's say there are people who are customers of yours, then you can really make sure that everything you put out there, they're going to see, because groups have a better reach. Or the second thing you could do is work on some paid ads. And paid ads will allow you to go ahead and show your ads in front of a greater amount of people, not just who are related to your page, but also people who have similar psychodemographics related to your customers. So we will be talking about that a little later here in this. But that's the biggest answer is, you know, Facebook doesn't want businesses succeeding for free. I mean, that's really the down and dirty answer, is they kind of want you to build a following, but they also want you to pay to really get your message in front of a large group of people.
All right, thank you, Tom. Let me go ahead and just kind of go through these questions. We are going to run a little bit out of time. So second question is, what are some general survey questions you recommend us to ask, and when is the right time to ask for a survey? It's difficult sometimes to ask for customers to do surveys.
Yeah, I'll take this. You know, this is one, I'll literally show you what my client survey was. This was actually in Well, it's going to be tough, actually. So I'll just tell it. So I'm sharing my PowerPoint, not this screen. But anyway, so our survey was simple. You want to keep it as simple as possible. You know, clients don't want 25 question surveys. They likely will not take those. So we kept ours clear, crisp, and concise. So our first one was, you know, in your own words, describe how you feel about No Boundaries Marketing Group. Next question was, how was your onboarding process and what could we do better? Next question was, what do you think we do really well? Next one was, what are we falling short, or where are we falling short, excuse me. Next question was, do you value our current reporting system and the frequency in which we share information? Next one was, do you think our pricing is competitive? And last but not least was, how likely are you to recommend No Boundaries Marketing Group to a friend or colleague? So we structured ours off of an NPS survey. So NPS is just your Net Promoter Score. For some of the larger companies out there, they do things like that. But again, I would just encourage, keep it short, sweet, but make sure it's something measurable that you can actually take that data back and apply some changes to your business. So again, sometimes I've seen surveys where it's just they're asking off the wall questions, and you have to beg the question, like, what are you going to do with that data? Are you prepared to make changes for that type of stuff? So just like I said, make them meaningful, make them something that you want to accomplish.
Yeah. And Chris, does your survey incentivize? Do people get something in exchange for taking the time to do your survey?
No, we don't. So, you know, I don't incentivize for my surveys only because I want genuine data. I don't want somebody to take a survey just because I'm going to send them a Starbucks gift card. So again, I find that we get more genuine responses because I have done incentivized surveys before. But again, that's my business, and your business or somebody else's business might be different.
And then one last question is that, do you send them through emails or through social media? How do you do that to push that out there?
So I used our email marketing system for that. So again, I use Zoho, that's my CRM. We sent out an email campaign, and it's as simple as that. I did my actual survey in Google Forms. It's a super easy, simple system to do. But you know, you have SurveyMonkey. You have a lot of the times, most CRMs will even have a survey feature. So whatever works best for you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. So let me just do this one last question and we'll move on. So how can someone increase likes and visibility in social media? I have a new campaign for virtual blood drive events and want a few tips to have more successful. Can you pay to boost an event?
Tom?
Yeah, you absolutely can pay to boost events. In paid ads, you can actually choose event as a strategy. As an objective rather, and you can create an event and you can go ahead and boost that to your page. You can boost that to other people who are going to be in the zip code or surrounding zip codes. So there are definitely a lot of things that you can do to boost a campaign. If you're just doing stuff organically, you're probably not going to have a lot of luck. But there are a lot of things you can do. There are different objectives you can use. You could use a video objective and make sure that you're getting that in front of a lot of people for, you know, a penny for a 15-second view. So there's just a lot of objectives you can do with paid, a lot of things that you can do to get people to see your event, to get people to see you, to get people to become aware of you on social.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback on that. I think another big element that you guys can look at is, you know, finding key influencers in a market. So, you know that there's a particular individual like Jeanette Gomez with the Chamber of Commerce who has a ton of followers online. You might be able to engage somebody like her to, you know, do a post or share a post or do something like that. So, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to individuals. Again, I would encourage building that relationship first, not just randomly reaching out, but avoid people like Tom. He probably can't help much. But yeah.
And not social media, but we've done events, you know, via geo, where we use what we call save the date creative. So where you basically target who your customer is and the area you want them to come from. And if it's in person, it's going to be in the area, or if it's online. But the person downloads the creative, they actually have a date save, and so that'll pop up for the event. So it's going to increase your event attendance because you're going to be able to reach hundreds of thousands of people instead of just a few in your particular group.
All right, thank you, Walter. I think we're gonna have to keep moving on. Chris, go ahead on your next couple of slides.
All right, so we're going to kind of breeze through some of these. Again, there's not a whole lot to really talk about. It's pretty self-explanatory. But again, analyze the research. Just make sure whatever you do collect, the raw data, you summarize into something meaningful. I don't know that we really need to break that down anymore. But again, some key things that I always like to focus on, especially with the market research phase is, what are the differences between me and somebody, a competitor? What sets us apart from our competition? Is our location or our target, our targeted location desirable? Is our competitor in that area? So again, there's a lot of things that you guys can look at from an analyzing standpoint, but the point is just make sure that it's something meaningful, something that can be measured, and something that can be replicated in the future too. We want to avoid instances where, maybe it's I can't give an example right now, but just something that's not going to be done in the future or something that can't be replicated in the future. So next up, identify your target audience. So with that data, again, the point of it is to identify a specific audience, geography in which that we want to target. So whether it be age, gender, location, religious affiliation, language, ethnicity, I mean, there's any number of things that we can target on platforms like social and really within a marketing strategy. You really need to define that. Now, I will caveat this to say, there's always the business that says, you know what, I take anybody and everybody. You could be a chiropractic office and you know what, you could say, hey, my target audience is really anybody. Well, it may be, but again, there's a geography behind that. Your target audience might just be in the Glendale area, or, you might be able to take clients from Peoria, Phoenix, so on and so forth. So just make sure you're really nailing that down. The reason why it's important, and you'll understand this later on, is it eliminates a lot of waste and it eliminates a lot of frustrations behind poor performing campaigns. The more granular you can get, the more dynamic your budget, let's just say, is going to be, and the better the results are that you're going to produce. So, yeah, guys, did you have anything you wanted to add to that before I move on?
You'll see later, not only do you need to identify your audience, but you also need to identify where they are, what they do, and when they do it. And so it's a lot of levels that goes into that now, today's with technology. So like Chris said, the more granular you get, the better and more effective your campaigns want to get. But you'll see some of that later.
Perfect. Next up, determining a budget. Again, pretty self-explanatory, but before you can decide what specific marketing strategies you want to implement, you have to know what you're willing and able to spend. Again, we do projections throughout the year. So again, we anticipate a certain amount of growth in a year. We anticipate a certain level of spend in the year. So again, when we're looking at this, I'm looking at a 12-month period. Now, that doesn't mean that I can go exhaust my entire marketing budget or spend all that money on initiatives right up front. Obviously, I can't. So, there's no standard for how much a business should spend or when they should spend it. I just put a general SBA, guide from there. And so businesses under 5 million in net revenue should allocate 7 to 8% of their marketing, but 7 to 8% of their revenues to marketing. Again, that may be high, that may be low for your business. It's just a general guideline. If your business is new in a highly competitive market or never been marketed before, you may need more. You may need 10%. So again, it's fairly broad in the grand scheme of things. I have some businesses that spend 10 to 20%. I have others that spend less than 3%. So it really just depends on your need and where you see your goals going or how you want to accomplish those goals. Next up is actually determining your marketing strategy. So with your budget in place, so again, if we establish and we said, okay, I have $10,000 to spend for the year, we're going to break that up, or we're going to find that by, let's just say we have 16,000. We'll just use a better number. And I have 4,000 a quarter that I want to spend towards my marketing. So again, with that budget in place, now we can start to look at different initiatives that will help us accomplish our goal. Now, this stage, it may require you to go back and redefine your goals because maybe that marketing budget just isn't there to support, your various goals. Again, that's why this is a living, breathing thing. It's something that you should adapt to, or you should evolve with your business. Just remember, focus your strategies on the elements of the business that can be used to create a special value in the minds of consumers and referral sources. So again, we want to try to generate leads if at all possible. If there's a reviews goal that you have that, if you don't have the budget for it, we understand. It doesn't mean that it doesn't get done now. It just means that, maybe that's something you add in or evolve into later on in the year. Make sure your site, and I just gave an example of that. One strategy related to a goal of increasing customer satisfaction might be to take a look at your website. So again, is it adaptive, responsive, blah, blah, blah. So you guys can look through that later. Next up, develop an implementation schedule. This is oftentimes one that a lot of clients forget. They usually stop at that last point where they've developed their goals, they developed their game plan, they know what they're going to do, and then we forget to schedule them out. This is where working with vendors, this is where, even on your own time, if it's, let's just say PR work that you want to focus on, let's just say it's some branding things, you want to purchase some products, to go deliver out to businesses that refer you. Thousands of different examples that we could give here, but again, make sure that you have a schedule. And that doesn't mean that schedule can't change. It just means that we need to have a plan in place to execute on our goals. Otherwise, when left to chance, we will forget. I mean, it's human nature. I know I do it. My wife and I, we do a lot of business planning. I mean, almost constantly as a small business owner. And so when we look at various initiatives, there are some that hey, what happened to that? Oh, that's right, we forgot. Oops, and so sometimes you miss out on great opportunities by simply not scheduling. So again, I put a little extra emphasis on that, but just make sure implementation also goes into your business plan, because the implementation schedule has everything to do with your staff, your timing, money. If I were to go throw a $50,000 initiative out there today and, Walter just kills it with some geo-fencing campaign for me, and all of a sudden, hey, I don't even have any time in my schedule to go meet with these new clients. Well, I just wasted a ton of money and probably pissed off a lot of people. So implementation has everything to do with business planning, staffing, time management, all sorts of things. So don't forget this important step. Next up, an evaluation process. So Brandon spoke on this earlier. I think it was Brandon, if not Walter, but it's super, super important to have an evaluation process in place. So we talked about it earlier about, looking at our, last 12 months of our campaign, but, again, hindsight's always 20/20. So what are we going to do looking forward? Are we going to evaluate things on the same unit of measure, or do we want to establish something more meaningful for the business? So again, if it's a social media campaign and it's not necessarily just about maybe selling a product or, a service, maybe it's about building followers on your page. So make sure you have meaningful goals in place or meaningful evaluation process in place that you can document this information and roll with it. It should be something to the next slide, which is rinse, wash, repeat. It's something that you should be able to apply again and again and again with minor tweaks or changes to those programs to adapt to changes. Review your plan periodically. So again, these are never set it and forget it programs. I never commit to a plan. Again, you can sign a contract with a company, but ultimately if something's not performing, you need to have a you need to have a system in place to adapt or overcome some of those challenges. So I recommend, again, we do quarterly evaluations with our business. Your business may be different. So whatever that looks like for you, just make sure you have that evaluation process in place. Make sure that your goals are defined and that unit of measure is defined. So again, if my goal with Tom is, hey, Tom, grow my business by 100 followers by, the end of the month, 1 week into it, if Tom's not, trending or tracking onto that, it's time to have a conversation with Tom. And maybe we give it another week. And if he's still way off, then hey, it might be time to cut that relationship or cut that program and move on to something more lucrative for my business. So again, there's several ways to measure: client survey scores, referral resources, increased income, new customers. So whatever it is, just again, have it in place. And then last but not least, wash, rinse, repeat. This is, again, I like using this phrase only because it's so true in everything that we do in marketing. So again, there's a lot of successes out there with certain campaigns, and there's others that don't work out so well. And so you really, really, really want to make sure that you're tracking, you're measuring your strategies. They have to be flexible. Stuff that works, maybe you extend that plan a little bit longer. Stuff that's not, you retract and you change direction. Let's see here. That's pretty much about it. I don't think I need to go into any more detail on that. So guys, do you have anything else to add, or should we go into your particular segments?
I think you hit it on the nail. A lot of good talking points there, and I think we'll keep on expanding on it as we go.
Perfect. All righty. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to turn it over. I've done a ton of talking today, so I'm going to fade into the background here and just really run a PowerPoint. I'm going to turn it over to Tom, Brandon, and then Walter. They're going to talk about specific products that you might consider this year, things that are working, trends, so on and so forth. So I'll turn it over to them. And unfortunately, Tom is first.
All right, guys. Well, first off, you are welcome. I'm giving you a good break from Chris. So you're welcome, everybody. Chris, no, thank you so much for the first part of the presentation. And what I kind of want to highlight is Facebook. And I want to talk about two things, basically how you could do an audit, some things you can do to try to grow your following, and then how you can maybe implement ads this year into your marketing plan. So one of the good things to do every year, and really it's probably a good idea to do this every quarter, but since we're coming up at the beginning of a new year, why not start now? I like to do a Facebook page on it, and I like to look at certain things to see, okay, how does it look? Do I need to update? Do I need to refresh? And one of the most important things is your first impression. So when somebody goes to your Facebook page, they're going to look at the cover page. That's going to be the first thing they see. So you want to go ahead and look at it and say, okay, how does this look? Is this a good representation of my company? Is this a good representation of my product and my service? And don't be afraid to change things up. In fact, it's a good idea, if you can, to go ahead and throw up some videos. The more authentic and unique you can make this, the better it's going to be. And again, the better the representation of you it's going to be. Now, I've got an example here of, going to go back, please, of a client profile image. It says, shout me loud, I think is what it says. That is an example of what not to do. And the reason is, it's very hard to see what that is. And while it may look good on your cover image or your cover page, once you start posting, that little thumbnail is going to be condensed and nobody's going to be able to understand what that is, what it says, and you're taking away a good branding opportunity. So when you create a profile image, look at it, and I recommend avoiding text. But instead, I like to have a good reflective image, preferably part of your logo, something that really stands out, or an icon that's good representative of what you do and what industry you're in. Also go through and look at the About Us section. Does it say who you are? Does it say what you do? Does it say to whom you serve? And if it doesn't do that, again, this is the first impression. When somebody goes here, am I landing on the right fan page? Is this a business that can help me? You know, you want to be able to answer those questions right off the bat. The fourth thing is the call to action. What do you want people to do? Do you want them to call you? Do you want them to actually just go to a website? Do you want them to go and fill out a form? Or do you simply just want them to like your page? So really kind of think, what is it you want to do? There are a lot of clients that have set it to like page because that's what they had when they started 3 years ago. But now, 3 years later, well, they'd really like a phone call. Or they'd really prefer that somebody goes to their contact us page so they can get a lead. So look at that audit, make sure that everything there is what you want. And same thing with location. And I bring this one up because let's face it, we don't all move all that often, but some people have inaccurate phone numbers or inaccurate emails. Again, they may have signed up their Facebook fan page 4 years ago using a Yahoo email. Now they have a business email. They don't look at their Yahoo email all that often. People could be emailing you through that and you don't know because you're not checking that. So do you have the most up-to-date contact information? So this is a good way to start off the new year. Audit your Facebook fan page. Is everything accurate? Is it a good representation of you? And make any changes that you need to make. Now the next page is going to be talking about ways that you can get activity. So what are some of the things that you can do to grow engagement or grow likes and followers on your Facebook fan page? And some of the ideas are tickets to an event, virtual or, and you have to kind of use your imagination here, but a long, long time ago, we used to actually be able to do these events in person. I know, we could like sit here face to face and talk to people. It's a crazy idea. But are there some events that you can have? Again, if you're building for an event, that's a good way to get people to come to your page. If they like going to one event, they'll probably want to keep up with you on other events. So that could be a good way to build some likes and follows. You could have a contest or a sweepstake to give away a prize, especially if you have a shop, a brick and mortar shop, and you have items that you sell there. You could go ahead and put together a gift basket, and you could create a contest or a sweepstakes, and if people do a certain amount of postings or whatever the details are, you could give away a gift basket. And again, that could just be a great way of people sharing your information, posting, things like that to really grow a lot of engagement for you. If you have something that really you want people to learn, Maybe they need a little more information to make a buying decision. You could come up with a free ebook about your product or service. You come up with a free report. You come up with a checklist. Something that basically what they have to do is, in exchange for getting this information, they would have to give you the contact information, and this starts the lead process for you. Another thing you could do is you kind of put get somebody to raise their hand and see if they're interested. And a good way to do that is offering coupons, offers, or discounts. Because let's face it, if you have a product or a service and somebody is downloading a discount or communicating with you via Messenger to get a discount code, or however you want to establish that, they're probably interested. They're probably interested in taking the next step. So this is a great way to go ahead and raise your hand and see, hey, what's going on? So that's a good giveaway for that. A question I get a lot is hashtags. Are hashtags any good? And the answer is, well, it depends. So if you look at posts with hashtags and without hashtags, posts without hashtags generally outperform posts with hashtags. But there's a giant caveat. The best performing posts are those that have only 1 or 2 hashtags. Where posts with a lot of hashtags go wrong is, well, when they have a lot of hashtags. If you get 3, 4, 5, 6 hashtags, or some people put 13, it's way too much and becomes ineffective. So if you can do a post and do maybe 1 to 2 hashtags in that post, you're actually going to get a lot more engagement than if you don't do hashtags or if you do 20 hashtags. And then a final thing that you could do is, again, give away free samples. If you could give away free samples of your product or service, people are going to love it, and it's a great way to grow your page. But again, and I'll be honest, a little transparency here. I'm an agency that does a lot of paid traffic. I do a lot of paid traffic because I used to do organic, and I've just seen organic reach fall on Facebook. So I'm a bigger fan of doing things with paid ads. And there's a lot of opportunities that you can do with paid ads on Facebook. So Chris, if we can move to the next slide. You're only going to get so much out of your organic reach. Now, I used to have a real estate client that did real estate clubs. They were in 4 different cities in Texas, and we had over 20,000 followers on their page. And we could put out anything, and I mean, sometimes we get 110, 120%. We'd put out a funny picture, okay, real estate pros, sell us this house. It'd be like, a picture of an upside down house or something like that. Everybody would put all these comments, and reach would just go crazy. That was back in 2012. Nowadays, if we do something like that, out of 25,000 people, we're looking to get 1,000 people to see it. The fact of the matter is, Facebook is a publicly traded company, and they do want people to pay to get performance. So there are a lot of options that you have, and depending on your goals, and this is why Chris really stressed on what your goals should be, knowing your goals. Based on what your goals, you can have different types of objectives you use to go ahead and achieve those goals. So some of the simplest types of paid ads, and we're not going to go through everything here, but some of the simplest types are video ads. So suppose you have kind of a homogeneous service. Like let's say you're doing life insurance, where basically anybody between age 30 and 50 may like it. Wouldn't you like to be able to kind of sell to those people who are interested? It's hard to get that because Facebook doesn't have an interest that says, I'm interested in life insurance. But what you can do is you could do a 60-second video about life insurance, and you can track on Facebook to see who watched 50% of it, who watched 75% of it, who watched 100% of it. And if you do that, then what you're doing is you're getting people to raise their hand. Now what you can do is you create an audience of people who watch 50% more, and you can remarket them, and you can further market them, give them information, give them content, and give them an offer. And that will make you a lot more efficient than just trying to blast an offer to the masses. So videos can be really good. Engagement ads are kind of the same thing. You put an ad out there in front of people, so they become, and Facebook's going to put it out in front of people who are most likely to engage. So let me take a step back and kind of talk about Facebook's objectives. If you have an audience, and let's say you have 1 million people in an audience, not everybody in that million, not every one of those 1 million people are going to use Facebook the same way. You have different buckets. Some people like to watch videos. So you can actually ask Facebook to say, out of these 1 million people, I want you to put my videos in front of people who are most likely to watch videos. Some people love to comment, like, share. Those are people who like to engage. You can sit there and say, Facebook, out of that 1 million people in this ad campaign, I want you to put these ads in front of the people out of that 1 million who are most likely to engage. I want you, Facebook, to go ahead and do a traffic campaign and I'm going to run an ad to my website or a blog, and I want you to go ahead and put this ad in front of people who are most likely to click and go to somewhere and read a blog. Facebook knows all this information. They know on the landing page, people are most likely to go and opt in. So Facebook has a lot of buckets within your audience, and depending on how you choose, which objective you choose to use, you can actually optimize for that specific task. So if you're using engagement, if you're using videos, if you're using awareness, what you're going to do is you're going to build an audience, a front-end audience, and from there you can go ahead and remarket. And that's important because, like Chris had stressed earlier, those engagements aren't going to get you an ROI up front. It's not going to get you an ROI in the first 30 days. But when you're remarketing them, not only are you going to get lower price leads from your remarketing, but because they've engaged with you a couple of times and they see you multiple times, you're going to have a higher intent audience. You're going to have a higher intent lead. So that's why it's important to really look at this and say, okay, I don't just want to give this 10 days and see if I can get my money back. You want to give this 30, 60, 90 days, and you want to see how it's going to work. And one other thing before I continue with the objectives that I really want to touch on is that when you put up an ad, Facebook's not going to have a green check mark that goes, ding, congratulations, you put out the best ad that's going to give you the best bang for your buck. It doesn't happen. The way it's going to happen is you've got to test. And by test, it means you're going to try stuff. Some stuff's going to work and some stuff's going to fail. In fact, a lot of stuff's going to fail. Everything you do is going to be learning and driving you towards what's going to be successful. If you put out 5 different ads, you're going to have 3 of them that perform well and 2 of them that perform poorly. So take out the 2 that perform poorly and start testing some other things. You always want to be testing. You want to test your images, you want to test your copy, and you want to test your audience to see what's working best. And like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. You just keep testing stuff. Whatever is working, you keep doing it, and whatever's not working, you turn it off. And that's how you judge success on this. So some of the other ways, if you're looking to get a conversion, if we could go back again, there's a conversion ad. So they actually will allow you to go ahead, and you probably clicked this before. You see an offer for something, you click, it takes you to a landing page, you fill out your information. That's a conversion ad. So you can actually, if you're looking to sell something, or if you're looking to generate leads, you can use a conversion ad for that. One of my favorites, and this is the easiest type of ad to run on Facebook, is a lead generation ad. Now with a lead generation ad, it's one of those, it shows up, you have an ad that shows up in your newsfeed, you click a button and a form just pops up. You don't leave Facebook, the form pops up and it has your information pre-populated. All you have to do is either edit or click confirm and bam, you've just signed up for whatever it is. So if you got tickets to an event that you want to give away, you could do a lead generation ad and they just click a button and they confirm the information, click another button again, bam, they've signed up for your event. They've downloaded a checklist. They've agreed to a coupon or they've downloaded a coupon. It's the simplest kind of ad that you can have. And really quick and easy to create. You don't need a website, you don't need a landing page. Very simple. Finally, the last one we're going to talk about is store traffic ads. This is one of the newest objectives with Facebook. This allows you to actually pinpoint people that are in your area that Facebook will say is going to be most likely to go ahead and show up to your store. And one of the calls to actions is you can have a map and directions, get directions so people can see your ad. If you're brick and mortar and you have a special and you want people within maybe 5 miles, or if you're in a mall, maybe within 5 blocks of you, or you could really, really narrow it down in your location to see your ads. And then they click a button and it will show up with the map, or it'll show up with directions on how they can get from where they are to your store. So there's a lot of different things that you can do on Facebook, a lot of different ads. So again, what Chris has really harped on in this entire, I should say harped on, but he's really tried to stress here is that you need to know your goals, and not every goal is a revenue goal. Sometimes it's awareness, sometimes it's list building, sometimes it's interactions. Whatever your goals are, Facebook paid ads has a solution for you on that. So there are different things you can do. And if you're paying for ads, you're able to, whatever your best campaign is organically, ads is going to be that best campaign on steroids. And you'll be able to scale that and duplicate that success as you grow. So
I don't
that is,
harp, by the way. I emphasize, thank you.
all right, well, that's enough from me. So you guys are in luck. I think we're going to go ahead and give this to Brandon now.
Yes, sir. Perfect. Thank you for that, Tom. And a lot of things that you're speaking to in the digital world when it comes to social media marketing apply the same way with merch marketing. So kind of the giveaways that you're mentioning, really that just breaks down offering value to the customer first. So even before we get to the point of asking the customer to come in and support us, or asking for any kind of money, any kind of exchange, transaction, we want to offer them value first. And one of the best ways to offer value first is through merch. So people may, think that it's a dead marketing space, but really it's still super valuable and can still drive a lot of business to you through the use of merchandise. But with the circumstances and the conditions of how the world is right now in the midst of COVID, things have changed quite a little bit, so we have to think about merch in a different lens. I mean, just to kind of break that down, just drop a one in the chat if you've ever received a pin or a t-shirt or a koozie, some kind of branded merchandise item that you never used and you just threw it away. If you've done that, drop a one. There we go. So you guys are familiar with this, just tchotchke type merchandise that a lot of companies have, utilized, which at that point in time were actually beneficial because, in the world of marketing, all it is to, evoke emotion, right? Well, you could also evoke that sense of touch to your marketing. And that's what merchandise has done for such a long time. But right now, in the circumstances that we're living in, the change is that we actually need to present more value ahead of trendiness. So those little tchotchke type gifts, they just don't work the same right now. And they won't work the same until we get back to full-fledged, and we'll see how long that takes us as we enter into 2021. So how do we do this? Well, by utilizing different merchandise, we want to show our customers that we care. And right now is a time of there's so much compassion and heartfelt that's going out from, both consumers, customers, as well as businesses. Customers hate to see our businesses, going under or being heavily impacted because they like to come out and support us as well. And they want to be able to support your business. And in order to reciprocate that to our customer, we have the opportunity to really utilize some different types of merch to show them that we still care about them and that we're thinking about them and we can't wait to get back to normal. So in the scope of that and just, kind of putting that into to frame, let's just think about how the consumer behavior is changing. So in the midst of COVID and quarantining, right now, people just have tighter budgets. They may or may not have lost their job, have less hours, or just being more conscientious about their spending patterns. So they're not, so open to just spend money in different places. They're really strategic about who they're going to give their money to. So we have to position our businesses in a spot to say like, hey, they care about me, so I'm going to continue to support them, even if I don't spend, my money in all these other areas. This business deserves my business. So just understanding that budgets are tighter and spending is stricter. And then also within that hierarchy, people are really placing a higher preferences on, brands and businesses that they trust. So even with, when it comes to health and hygiene, like a couple of weeks ago, I was actually in Austin and we seen a couple businesses that, just completely disregarded the pandemic altogether. There was no need for masks. There were no sanitation things in place. So it was a little leeriness from the different customers that were passing by. Like, I don't know if I want to go in there. So people are really placing that high on their list of where they want to give their business to, knowing that this is a trusted brand and that they're taking the best interest of their customers, whether that be just in sanitation or, offering value through different merchandise that we're going to tap into here shortly. And then also a changing behavior is interaction times are just shorter with customers right now. So, a lot of times, especially like for the restaurant, entertainment industry and such, people can come and hang out and spend time, or, going to networking events. You can sit there and shake hands and really build that rapport, over time. But that is definitely changing right now. People are a little bit shorter on their time. So we want to put something in their hands that actually increases our impressions with that person. And the only way to do that is, can you switch to the next slide for me, Chris? Whoops, let me get this out my way. Here we go.
Is that the right slide?
Yep, that's the one. Yep, there we go. So in over communicating that health and safety to build that trust and connection. Like I was saying, in comparison to being in Austin, people want to come to a place where they know that they're taking these necessary precautions for their health and hygiene while they're there doing business with you. And a way that we can use merch is not only a giveaway for that value, but we could also use merch in-house. And that can come in the form of using positive signage, not necessarily warning. So you've been to some different businesses and such, and the first thing says, no mask, no business, no, you can't come in. But what if we switch that narrative to say, hey, if you need a mask, we have one for you, or please use a mask, and then having a free mask to offer them while they're at your place of business. So just kind of switching over that language a little bit, and signage is a great way to do that, and it still creates that customer connection and lets them know that you care. That's the same thing by adding convenience. Like, why would we ever want to turn away business for somebody that may have forgot their mask that day? Instead, every business has an opportunity to create some branded, PPE items, sanitizer and such that people can take with them or use while they're there, and then take with them when they go, knowing that PPE is such a huge thing right now that people are going to utilize it because it's necessary at this point in time. So that's like one of the ways that we can pair up different merchandise to extend our brand impression with our clientele. And then also, if we wanted to really use merchandise in the manner of a loyalty program, you can do that as well. So pairing any kind of merchandise with a call to action. So if you are a restaurant, and Harkins does this pretty well, there, loyalty bags and loyalty cups. If we wanted to give out any kind of branded cup and offer people a discount when they bring that cup in to your business, they get a discount on whatever beverage that is. So there's a lot of different ways that we could do that. But anytime we're incorporating a product, I think it's also important for us to incorporate some kind of campaign and messaging that's associated with it, and having a call to action, and not just, giving away like, here you go, walk away. No, we want to actually create messaging behind that product and create a purpose of why we're giving it to them, and building that rapport with them through the product as we build that trust. And oh my goodness, I am super sorry, guys. My laptop is going to die, but I'm not going to let it. Hold on. I'll hate that. I'm sorry. Here we go. So we're actually going to switch it around here. Don't mind me. I didn't expect us to carry on that long.
Ooh, let's see all your stuff back there. What do you got? Let's find something.
Oh my goodness, I got samples galore, and I can pull out some things for sure, and I'll show you guys on the next slide as well. But
PG-13, friend, come on.
I'm sorry.
Never mind. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. And then, furthermore, I think really just the caveat of it all is just letting the customer know that you care about them. So even if it's not about giving merchandise at your place of business, you could always send something in direct mail. And that's kind of a trending thing that's happening in our industry right now with promotional products, is to send items to the customers that are, probably in our upper tier of loyal customers that we have, just to show them that we haven't forgot about them. We're still thinking about them. And then, in return, ask them to come and, patronize to whatever business or service or product that we have to offer to them. And we can do this in a lot of different ways, kind of what we spoke about earlier, as far as, really tapping into the different psychographics, of our audience and customers, understanding that, hey, our customers might not be thinking about, drinking coffee right now, but I know if they're drinking coffee that they might have some kind of corporate job. And if they have a corporate job, they might be working at home right now. So why not send them a work at home kit? Something that has functionality and usability that's not a throwaway gift, but something that they could actually put to use and extend our brand exposure with them. And there's a couple of different kits that we'll see on the next page here. And then there we go, Payal. Yep, so you see like here in the bottom left-hand corner, some like work from home kits. Being that Zoom is such a big thing, I mean, I don't know how many Zoom calls is the record in a daytime, but I know we're all pretty spent on Zoom calls, but you know, offering different Zoom kits, kind of with the camera slider, or having a data blocker, or having a cord connector, something that they can actually put to use. And coming from your brand is like, wow, they are still thinking about me in this time that we're away. So we can do different things, and it's going to be different for different businesses. Once we understand who your customer and audience is beyond how they interact with your business, and seeing what kind of products fit that. And then the same thing here with the branded care packages. Sending those off to your clients, and understanding that PPE is just in high demand right now. Everybody is wearing a mask. Everybody's hypersensitive about having hand sanitizer handy. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with this toolkit here, the no touch tool. So you can open doors, touch different touch screen type things without, cross contaminating or getting, germs everywhere, I guess you could say. So those are a really cool thing that could be sent out to your customers, or you can have them on site, and, something that you can send customers off with when they leave. And being that, it is branded to you and that they are going to use it during this time of COVID, you're actually extending your brand messaging with them through the use of products that are intentional. And then the same thing, kind of the loyalty cup that I spoke about here. This is a really cool thing that I've, been pitching to a lot of clients lately, is holiday scented sanitizer. All of us are just so tired of this overly pungent sanitizer. Well, there's some good sanitizer in the market now, right now, specifically scented towards, the holidays, cinnamon, eucalyptus type stuff. And I think that would just bring a little bit of joy into all of our clients' minds, and letting them know that it comes from us, because we still want to hold on to that holiday cheer. And then same, just partnering up messaging with the different items. So we see kind of these clear masks here, so if people are coming into your establishment, why not hand them a branded clear mask and like, hey, we just want to see you smile, pairing that messaging up with the product to just show that little bit of compassion and create a connection with those clients, being that those impressions are just so short right now that we have to figure out a way to really hone in on those and extend that. And there's a lot of different ways. It comes down to the strategy, kind of what Chris and Tom we're talking about. There's a lot of different strategy behind all of these things. It's going to be different depending on your needs and objectives of your business, but there's ways out there to accomplish that. And I think that still utilizing merch marketing in combination with any kind of digital marketing will really go a long way, especially in 2021, depending on how long this quarantine and COVID lasts. But we have some major opportunities with merch. We'd love to help out anybody in that space. If you have any ideas or you're looking for some direction, I keep my ear to the ground as far as what's happening in the here right now and what people are gravitating towards. So I would love to help out in that space, but just know that don't forget about merch. It's super important, maybe even more so important at this point in time where the human touch is so short-lived. So that's all I had to say. Hopefully that makes sense. This is the first time I'm doing a presentation, but I think this is all important.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, last but not least, Walter, my friend, let's rock and roll.
Hello, my friend. Hey, everyone here knows basically not necessarily who their customer is, but who they want their customer to be. For example, if you have a dress shop, hey, I want ladies that, to buy dresses. But let's use technology to go way past that to show you how to define who your customer is and how to engage with them. So in the day's technology, you have to kind of move away. Sorry if there's any printers here, but you kind of have to get away from that and actually use the technology we have because of that mobile device you have and that smart TV and the laptop to actually dig down to that particular person. We have 100 million devices that we actually have in our system. And with those devices, we know who does what and when. not who as a person, but what device does what and when. So you need to have the 4 pillars of this particular system to be able to really drill down to your customer and not waste ad spend. So since I'm doing a one-to-woman campaign, let's just say a customer is Harkins Theater out at P83, since we're talking about Glendale. So one thing Harkins wants to do, since say they're having the movie Wonder Woman there, you know, when things open up, they want to find a moviegoer. So what they want to do is they want to geo-conquest, which is the first thing you see on the left. And geo-conquest is basically stealing your customer from a competitor. So Harkins Theater with geofence an AMC Theater, a Lowe's, these other drive-through theaters that you actually have. They want to actually target those people and connect with them when they go to their competitive locations to drive them to where they are to see a movie. Geo-targeting. So the movie is Wonder Woman, so you think you know who your customer is, but do you really know? So for Wonder Woman, what we're going to do is we're going to target people who have an affinity for DC Comics, people who actually watch Netflix, they stream movies online, they actually rent movies, they're different age and demographic. Those are the actual people that we'll actually target to actually bring them to the movie, because we know with their online and offline behavior and buying habits, how we can actually drive them to that particular person or your particular store, because we know they have an affinity for your particular product. And we actually know who watches DC Comics and who watches Marvel, etc. Geofencing. Harkins Theaters in P83, so they will put a geofence from the center of Harkins Theater out to a radius that they determine. That basically allows them to engage with every mobile device that has location-based services on, of everyone that actually comes through there, which allows them to capture the device. And what do you do when you capture devices? You have an advertising ID that's on that phone, so you're able to engage and re-engage with that particular customer that's relevant for up to 12 months after. So it's not a flyer that you put in somebody's door or something you mail to someone. You actually have a customer that's interested in your product, and you're building an actual list in case it's not instant gratification to continue market different messages to that person for a long time coming out. And that's all tracked for you. And proximity marketing. Proximity marketing is a 4th pillar, and you'll see a slide on that coming up after this. And proximity marketing is you define a point of interest that you want to connect with that particular person. So what's different than geofencing is, hey, I want to deal with people, since I'm a movie theater, I want to deal with people that have date nights inside of P83. So I want to target Firebirds, Cheesecake Factory, etc. Because when they're at that particular place, I can incentivize them to also go to a movie to keep date going. Those are the type of things you can do. And when you engage with them, you can send them a video, and when they see the video, then the creative automatically pops into a, here's the nearest theater, here's the nearest time that it's showing, and it actually gives you directions for walking and driving to that particular location. We have about 21 different ad formats, and they are all really pretty incredible. Next slide, please. So again, this is a campaign we did for Lowe's. As you can probably see, DIY enthusiast was the first segment. So if you would think from 100 miles away, say, okay, who's Lowe's customer? Okay, it's a person that owns a house that's within 5 miles of Lowe's. That's what you would think, but it's not really how it goes. They want a person that's a DIY enthusiast. They actually had casual diners that really engage with them, big box shoppers, and then we actually take all this data that we got from the geofencing campaign and segmented each particular audience, and then we report it to Lowe's. Here's your customers that actually engage with your particular promotion, and here's the segment that engaged with you and actually converted and came to you. And this is how long it took them to come to you, and this is how much money they spent, etc. And we did this from our geofencing campaign, also from Connected TV. And for those of you who don't know what Connected TV is, once you cut the cord, you have a screen on where it's Roku or LG, whatever. You'll see usually an ad in the lower left corner, upper right corner. We actually put those on there, and we track them from the time you saw it to the time you went to the store and converted. So those are different ways that you can actually engage with your customer at a deeper level, not just in generalities. And again, you're not wasting ad spend. And the fact that you know who your customer is, what happens on the next campaign. We have these 3 arrows here because, hey, go ahead and engage deeper with these particular people because they actually converted more than other audience segments. Next slide, please. And this is an idea when I said we actually, we have a technology called Moments that you can engage with someone at a point of interest. A point of interest in front of here, like I said, we said movie theater. So say this is an AMC theater, or I don't know who else is out there, basically iPic, AMC, whatever, because we're trying to drive them to Harkins. You go to a defined distance from that particular Harkins theater, or it can even be a billboard or a sign on the wall. All we need is coordinates. And once they get within that distance, they'll get a push note on their phone, which wakes the phone up because you don't have to be on the phone, just wakes it up. As soon as you push that, because it's going to come from one of 600,000 different apps that our software is in, then a creative ad is going to come up full screen about your particular product. The person's going to touch it, and then that at that point, it could be a video, it could be a map to get to that particular place, it could be a game, scratch off, any type of thing you want to have, but it's going to drive that person to you. But as soon as you see the WW84 come up, then that's actually a target and a customer for you to target, retarget at a later date. And not only are you getting great conversions from this, but at the same time, you're also building a customer list that's actually interested in your particular product. It's not just general, it's very, very targeted. Next slide. Loyalty. We're talking about marketing plans, we're talking about getting our name out and getting customers in, but what are you going to do to bring the customers back? What are you going to do to retain that customer? In other words, there's 1,000 restaurants in town, 1,000 retail places, and they're getting marketing messages from everyone. But if they really like your place, then we have an app that you guys will see soon. That you can actually engage with them twice a month via emails, twice a month on push notes. And push notes, if you have, the day is Tuesday, if you have an event this Thursday, oh my God, I need to tell all of my followers. You do a push note, 30 minutes later it goes out to all of those people. So engage with your particular people, find out how your promotion is doing so you can actually keep sending the right promotions out, see what's working and not working. But the key is make sure your customers favor your business so you can keep in contact with them to bring them back, because loyalty is actually huge. Because in reality, the best customer any business can have is the current customer. Because if they like you and you can engage with them and bring them back, then you're going to be successful. Next slide. It's the same thing. This also gives you different ways to engage with them that people are going to like. It's going to be digital promotions. It's also going to be loyalty. And loyalty, to bring them back, you make sure those things are in-store redemptions. So you're bringing them back into the store, even though this is touchless. And last slide. On the loyalty program, make sure you offer those particular points if you're a business, because if you offer them points, you're keeping cash in your pocket. Consumers love points, but this is just one of many different things you can do to bring customers back. But it's something you really need to add to your plan, whether it's this system or another one. But you want to make sure that you engage with your customers after they leave, because there's nothing worse than having someone come into your place, not know who they are, they enjoyed it, but not make sure you keep in contact and bring them back.